All right, everybody, so this is what we're drawing today. I got everything gridded out, and then I drew just a rough pencil sketch of what we're going to be drawing, and this is going to teach you how to shade. The reason it's a sphere is because obviously not all objects are perfect spheres, but the sphere gives you a good idea of, it's good practice for a first drawing. So draw along with me. All right, so I have my basic drawing. This part's the shadow. I guess that's a cue ball. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with the shadow, and if you look carefully, this part is not as dark. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with the line first. And today, this is what I'm using. I'm using compressed charcoal. I'm using a Premo Euro Blend charcoal pencil. I like this brush a lot. This is just a round Princeton art brush company. I have a blending stump that I use sometimes. I have an eraser where you can do the eraser like that. This is another Princeton soft oval mop, which is really awesome. Those are really cool. Those give really good blending. So what I'm gonna do is, if you look at this line, I'm gonna just draw this line where the shadow is. I'm gonna start with that line. I'm gonna go ahead and draw the shadow. So, and believe it or not, if you look carefully, not all of it is dark in the shadow region. So I'm gonna be careful and try not to darken everything at the same value, because places right here are lighter and then it gets darker right here. So what I'm gonna do is this compressed charcoal is so dark that what I'm doing with this is I'm really just looking for the darkest area. So if you see right here, it's dark close to the edge of the shadow right here. This edge of the shadow gets lighter, so I'm gonna not darken that as much. So all this right here is gonna be dark, and then it's gonna fade here, and then it's gonna fade in this area. So then I'll just quickly add this value. And then what I'll do is I'll blend all this to make it uniform, and then I'll probably add more value because this is probably not gonna be dark enough. So a lot of drawing is just trying to see. What I see with people when they start trying to learn how to draw is, and this was also true for me, was I thought I knew how to look at things until I started drawing, and then once you start drawing, it's like, oh wow, I don't know what I'm looking at. So I'm just add some blended value here. Obviously this is not the finished product, it's not gonna look like this, but I'm just trying to quickly just add some of these fade values of the shadow here. I'll like clean that up with an eraser a little bit here. And like this faded part doesn't have to be perfect. Another brush I like to use sometimes is this. I don't know what kind of brush this is, but this one has stiff bristles, so it works pretty well for blending. So this is charcoal, but it's kind of like painting because you use so many brushes. I used to see people drawing on Instagram, and I was like, wow, they got these amazing fades in their charcoal, and then I realized, oh, they're just using brushes. And just in painting, just be aware of the direction of the brush, because right here I don't want to just have charcoal that'll ruin that fade over there. And you can see this brush blends very differently. This one's like I said, it has harder bristles, so it doesn't blend as smoothly, but I think this will look really good for this shadow. And what I'm doing, there's a lot of loose charcoal, so sometimes if you start blending and all that, it can create uneven blending. So that's your basic shadow with charcoal. I'm gonna work quickly for this video. So then if you notice, the paper is medium toned. So what that means is that I'm looking for the dark and the light parts of the drawing, and I'm not necessarily looking for the mid-range as much. So that means the next thing I'll do is I'll add this. There's a highlight. I don't know if you can see this, but this highlight right here, I don't know if you can see it. There's a highlight right there, and then there's a highlight right here. I'm gonna add those next. So let me add those. So there's a highlight here, and so I'm just adding what I'm seeing. There's a line to this right here, and then this is all fully white right here. And then same thing here is there's a line that goes from here to here. So I'm gonna add that one. Again, I'm just working quickly. I'm not really too worried about the precision of this, as you know, it's just kind of instructional. So then there's a shadow that goes across. I don't know if you can see this, but there's a shadow right here. So let's draw that next. So I'm gonna use that brush. It probably still has some charcoal on it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just rough outline where this shadow is. This goes to about here. So I'm gonna start drawing that shadow. And then this is a line. This is not, it's shadowy, but it needs to be a line because it deviates from the outside line of the ball here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw this one. And these marks that I made on before I drew the line are just approximating where that line is gonna happen. And I'll go ahead and draw the rest of the shadow. And if you notice, there's another line that goes around the edge of the ball here. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw that. I feel like a drawing is only as good as the line quality. So being aware of the line weight, meaning how thick the line is really important. So there's a little bit of blending here. So I'm using this brush, just blending that side. Once we get this shadow, it'll start to look like a ball, I think. And within this shadow, there's reflections that would be cool to articulate. This part is darker than, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the pencil and I'm gonna draw those in. Kind of just lightly draw some of that in and then blend that. Now this is also shadow, but this is kind of more mid-range out here. Now there's one other shape that I didn't draw, which is this shadow, which goes like this. It's this shadow that then gets close to this one and then does that. And that one's more of a mid-rangey, it fades from here and is a very mid-range shadow here. So again, I'm just using a light brush for this one. Just gonna blend those, because again, the ball is so curved right here. It's okay. If this shadow charcoal blends, I think it looks fine. So let's continue to add some value with this brush. I'm gonna just start blending all this together. So good. Now, we want a really curved fade right here, and for that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this large mop after I add some charcoal to the drawing. So now I'm using my compressed charcoal up here. Blend that in a second. I'm gonna use some compressed charcoal here. And you'd be amazed at how forgiving charcoal is as a medium, I feel like, because it really is a forgiving medium in a lot of ways. Even if you're not really precise, it still looks good, in my opinion. It can be kind of stylistic, or you can get really detailed and get photorealism effects, which is also kind of cool. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this mop and I'm just blending all this. And we'll probably blend the part of it together. So just blending that, using different brushes here. So as you can see, I'm working on this shadow, which is the majority of this drawing right here. Continue to blend, probably do another layer of this compressed charcoal, because what I'm gonna do too is I'm gonna blend as best I can. I'm probably gonna use, there's so many different ways of blending, but as I'm blending with this right now in this very moment, I'm always adapting to what's on the page. So there's another type of charcoal called vine charcoal. Let me see if I got any of that. And again, I don't think, let me see if I have some here. So this is called vine charcoal, and it's very light. It's really good for blending, so I'm just gonna add that. And I really like, to me, vine charcoal is really good for mid-range kind of stuff. Just getting a good blend on it is important. In fact, I'm gonna erase a little bit right here just to work on this blend. Yeah, this is looking good. Need to add more charcoal here. I'm using this large mop to get some of this blend going. The top curvature right here is important for the shadow, I feel like. In fact, I'm gonna add vine charcoal here. And you can see how this vine charcoal really did a good job blending. You know what I mean? It really pulls some of those blends together. Gotta love that fine charcoal. It's getting there. So blending and shading and stuff like that, I feel like is surprisingly difficult. But I'm sure as you're learning, it's all trial and error. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of white here. Add more fine charcoal on this. Get a little bit darker and blended. Now, I was saying too about how this medium charcoal paper has a certain kind of quality to it. I need to probably take off some of this value here. So I'm just using an eraser. Doesn't have to be perfect. Awesome. You get some white compressed charcoal on the edge of this. Because if you look, the background is all white, so that's what I'm gonna draw it like that. So hopefully that gives the effect of what we were trying to draw. Probably need to blend this on this outside line here. There's a little bit more value as this shadow fades here around the curvature of the ball. If you get the shadows and the light effects right, it really looks cool. Again, this only took me a couple minutes. But you can start to see it starts looking three-dimensional, and just the process of just adding more and more detail. This shadow here, blend that out here. As you can see, this is what we're drawing, and then this is the result, if you can see that. But I feel like I could blend this more. What I can do too is I can take value from here, and the fade of that blend, when you're looking at it, that fade of that blend needs to be a little bit less dramatic here. Try to fade it as best I can. A little bit better. When it starts looking three-dimensional, I feel like it can always be better, but hopefully that gives you a good starting tutorial. Thanks for watching.